Right, what's up, team? Welcome to episode 9 of Yarns with Beef and Matt, powered by LSKD. I'm Beef.
I'm Matt, and today we are lucky enough to be joined by one of New Zealand's longest standing competition directors. If you're anyone who's anyone in New Zealand CrossFit, you will know who we're talking about. We've got Mr. Michael Gilly Gillum. How are you, mate? How are you?
Good, lads. How's it going?
Yeah, good, man.
Not
Good.
too bad.
How's life looking at the moment? Pretty stressful?
Busy to say the least. I've got a lot going on with not only the comps, but I'm obviously in the army as well, and coach a couple of athletes that are pretty good as well. So busy with that as well.
How good? How's the first week of qualifiers? We've got one workout out, one coming today.
Yeah, one coming in about 90 minutes.
Oh, nice.
And then one more Wednesday, and then I think another 7 days following that for the athletes to get them done and get them in.
Yep. How good, man. How good. Anyway, so to get this thing started, we'll get a bit of an insight on you before the world of CrossFit. What did the young Michael Gillum look like coming up through the world?
Before CrossFit?
Yeah, man.
Played rugby. Yeah, so I played rugby basically the majority of my youth. And what else did I play? Squash. Did a bit of downhill skiing, mountain biking.
Yep.
I went to boarding school in Auckland, so basically it was like do the hostel run every day after school, or it was go and play a sport. So we just played sport every day.
Right.
So I got pretty heavily involved in every sport that was accessible, I guess.
Yep. Oh, yeah. So pretty outdoorsy all your life.
Yeah,
Easy
for
work,
sure.
man. Easy. So you mentioned in the army. When did you start that up?
So joined first year after school actually, in 2008.
Yep.
Did 2 years. Army paid me to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
Paid me to go to uni, not school.
Yep.
And then did a year in Wairu commission. Did 2 years. Got out to start CrossFit Taurus in Hamilton.
Yep.
And then I guess that's when the events kind of started as well and kind of took off. And then got back in the army now 4 years ago.
Okay. Yep.
But yeah, been pretty heavy back in the army since then.
Nice. What rank are you in the army?
Captain.
Oh, big dog.
Unreal.
Commissioned officer on
Yeah.
Was the army always sort of the path you wanted to take, or was it other ventures you tried out prior?
No, I guess army was always a thing. My mother made me do accounting at high school, and so I suffered all the way through that, all the way to seventh form.
Yeah.
But army was definitely the priority, and then I had no idea what the army entailed when I joined. I just wanted to join the army, and then I got pushed into the officer career path. Obviously, there's two like streams, I guess, officers and soldiers, and so I kind of got told to go along to this interview, went to that, and then got told to go to a selection board down in Wellington, and I just said, yeah, got on the bus and went, and then happened to pass, and then went to another interview, and then suddenly I'm in Wairu doing the commissioning course. So,
oh man,
yeah.
Sick.
So army was always the thing. It was just not the way in which I went through the army.
Yeah. Oh, how good.
Yeah, I don't know too much about the army, but have you ever been like deployed or?
No, I haven't deployed. Probably haven't been in like consecutively long enough or in the right job to be able to deploy.
Right.
Plus, I kind of always like held myself in a position where I've got so much going on in my personal life that I don't really allow for that.
Yeah.
I mean, like I turned down 2 deployments at the start of this year because it would mean that I couldn't run the competitions, right? And same with the gym we have down in Palmy. I wouldn't be able to run that either with being deployed. So it's just not really convenient. And then having a 4-year-old daughter on top of that just doesn't really encourage deployments at all.
True. No, that's fair enough. I guess obviously we've discussed you've got a lot on your plate and seems to be an ongoing thing. What does a day in the life sort of look like for you? Are you on base? Are you at the gym? What's happening on a day-to-day?
Yeah, so I guess a general day will start. I take class every morning at the gym here, we have here. So 5 a.m. or 5:50 class, take that till 7. And then it depends on what day of the week it is. I either go home and help get our daughter ready and take her to Montessori, or that's my chance to train. And then start work at about 9:30 with the army. I'm at work. I'm an instructor at one of the schools here. So we're currently in the middle of a junior logistics course. And so I'm on base in Hookfidu, but on base until 4:30.
Yeah.
And then go home. Generally try and spend time with Indy from then. Like she has all sorts of stuff as 4-year-old girls do, dance or swimming or whatever it is. And then 7 she goes to bed, and then I guess work starts again. So I coach some high level athletes, and so I program for them It's generally about an hour a night, so till about 8:30, and then off the back of that, do some nationals work. So I might be catch up with Cam, the other event manager for nationals, or we do some gym work. It might be some promotional stuff set up for that for the gym, or some programming for the gym, or whatever needs to be done, and then generally hit bed about 10:30.
Shit, that's a full-on day. So what, like
Yeah.
up at like 4:30 and not hitting the bed till 10:30?
Yeah, up at 5. Up at 5 every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so every day is basically Monday to Friday is like that, and then Saturday is gym in the morning, and then the afternoon is probably like family time, try and hold that, and then Sunday is programming.
Yeah. Do you feel like you'd have to operate like that if you had time on your hands? You wouldn't know what to do with it?
Yeah, well, it's funny, right? Because Alyssa and I always talk about how we do too much in life. And it'd be nice to have more time. But problem is that every time we get rid of something, we add something back. You know, like we sold the gym in Hamilton, and Leash Martin took over that, and she is doing a phenomenal job up there. And but then we just started another gym down here.
Yeah, yeah, I saw it.
So yeah. So it's weird, right? We just, I don't know. We love to be full on and doing stuff, and like we just had a free weekend. Not last week and the week before. And so we went away to Taranaki. Alyssa did a course, and I used the time to do write up the scorecards for nationals. So every time we're going away, we're still finding stuff to do, right? Yeah. Downtime's boring.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, man.
It's funny how a lot of people operate that way. It's like you spend a lot of your time saying, oh man, I need to take a break. I wish I had time to just sit down and do nothing for a bit. And then that happens. You're like, no, this is shit. This is dumb. It's pretty good insight though. It's for the athletes, especially myself. Competed in team nationals last year. It was pretty sick. Nice. And sort of how much prep is going on in the background. We know bugger all really about what actually goes on behind closed doors. How much prep goes into running such a massive event like that?
Yeah, I'm really glad you asked that. And this is something that Cam and I are really working with Jack, who's one of our lead photographers for nationals, to try and articulate that to, I guess, the public, because I think there's a lot of perception around the thought that this is like a sidekick job that takes a little bit of time, and we run this big event in the weekend and it's all over. But Cam and I take January and February off nationals, and then come March, it's like foot to the floor. I do a minimum of half an hour a night, 6 days a week. And then sometimes it's more than that, and that's for the whole year. And then like Cam came down 2 weeks ago, and we spent all day Saturday and Sunday doing some planning, and it's not like, it'd be hard to pay someone a full-time job to do it, because it's like two people. Cam does all the I guess we have like inside outside the competition floor, so he does everything outside the barriers effectively, and I do everything inside. So all the CrossFit stuff, and like the gear and all that sort of stuff, and then Cam will be like sponsors, the venue, sound and audio, all that sort of stuff. But it just like little bits all of the time, you know, like we just organize for new flooring to go under the rig that's very similar to what the games have. That like it probably took like 10 minutes at a time, but over like 3 weeks, and you do that like 20 times, just coordinating and getting an import in and managing all of that. Like it's like 5 hours of work, but done in little snippets all of the time. Yeah. And so it just adds up massively, you know, like I take a phone call from a sponsor and I got to pass the details on to Cam, or someone sends me a message and like, hey, we're keen to get on board, or, you know, or like last night I spent 20 minutes just answering queries about the first workout.
I was going to say,
so it just adds up, you know.
Are you getting annoyed of like affiliate owners like myself messaging about dumb fucking questions?
Nah, never annoyed. It's like I always look at it as like maybe we've missed some clarity somewhere. Yeah. Because the thing is, we're trying, like if we haven't articulated well, there's questions for a reason, right? Yeah. And so we need to find a way to better clarify things, and I think we're getting a lot better at that. And it's I think the biggest one for us is about getting people to the website to find that information, because especially like at our age are more used to social media, whereas not everyone is, right? There's a generation coming after us who like are trying to step away from social media, and there's a generation well ahead of us that completely don't use that. You know, I had an email from a guy yesterday which was quite humbling, and his message is like, hey man, I can't find out what time the workouts get released or where they're getting released. And I was like, and I sent him a screenshot of like the social media release of the time, and he's like, oh bro, I don't have Instagram.
Oh really? Yeah.
But it was good eye opener, right? Because it reminded me that like everyone's not about the social media front, and so there is other means that we need to use to reach people to articulate what we're doing. Yeah,
I suppose that's that whole thing of like constantly learning. One little thing like that, you just didn't think about it, and you're like, oh fuck, okay. here's another avenue I need to cover.
Yeah, 100%. Yes, I guess back to your question, like it is like if we would pay someone part-time for a whole year, it'd be definitely a part-time job. But yeah, so March it starts, and that goes all the way through till like, we always take like 3 days off after nationals where Cam and I don't talk to each other, just because the break's nice.
Fair enough.
And then and then we dive back into the team for Indy Nats, and then probably have like a break over Christmas. But yeah,
that's insane to think, because all your competitions are in the later half of the year. To think that they're being prepped in March, it's like, what the fuck? So no, it's pretty good insight. That
I saw your latest. Oh, sorry, but you go.
I was gonna say, so I guess as an example, right? So we announced that we're using Carapero this year for the team nationals.
Yep.
So that was planned 2 years ago to get that across the line. And so the council wanted us to resubmit the surf life-saving agreement for that. And they have to change the bylaws of the way in which you use the lake to have that many competitors in the water. And so Cam's already working on that right now, but he applied for it 2 years ago. So like to be able to do stuff like that, right? The timeline is just so long, because council takes like 3 months to look at your application.
Yeah.
Raglan last year was, I think we got that on. We started talking to Surf Life Saving 3 years ago when I first asked Cam to let's do Raglan. And so he like approached the council and he's like, this is the process. And then a year later, we like put an application and went through all the process, and then obviously got pulled. But yeah, so it's just like the timeline to be able to do the cool stuff that people really make memories out of. It takes a lot of time.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. And like you said, we don't see that at all. We see, Carapero this year. You probably sorted that last week, but but 2 years. Yeah. That's crazy, man.
Even public beach, you'd think, it's a beach, we'll just go for a swim. But no, the surf lifesavers and everything. It's eye opener.
That's good. We have you guys to sort that out, so we can just turn up and rip shit and bus and go home.
Yeah, 100%. But that's what it's about, right? Like there's someone's got to do it, right?
Awesome, man. Awesome. So you had CrossFit Taurus in Hamilton. You've touched on that already. Was that before or after Nats, or did that lead on to Nats? What's the story behind CrossFit Taurus?
So a friend of mine in the army. So we used to train at CrossFit Mana down in Palmerston North under, I guess, some of the original New Zealand CrossFitters like Aaron James and Luke McGraw and Marty Tuhuhu. And so I used to train with those boys, and then a friend that was with me trained at the gym, and we were just young, keen, and had no idea, and we just jumped on a bandwagon like, hey man, we're gonna open a CrossFit gym. And AJ was like, yeah, cool, good luck.
Yeah.
buy heaps of toilet paper, man, because that's what we spend a lot of money on this gym.
You fucking
yeah. Oh yeah, crazy. And then so we moved to Hamilton. There was only one CrossFit gym in Hamilton at the time, so it seemed like a good opportunity. The dumbest thing was that none of us had any family in Auckland, and I managed to convince my brother to get like transferred for Ideal Electrical a month earlier, so I had somewhere to live with his garage. And then so we opened a gym there, and then it kind of just grew and grew and grew. And then 1 year at the Mount, when Luke was running the nationals at the Mount, we were yarning with Tan's Waikato. I don't know if you know who she is. No. She's been around for a while. We were staying with her, and we were yarning about the need for an individual comp in New Zealand. And then Tan's, being who she is, her response was, yeah, sweet, go and do it then. And I was like, and I laughed it off. But because I didn't know the sponsorship side of stuff, like that's not really my jam, how to approach corporates and how to get funding and stuff. So, and then it just happened. I was talking to a lady who owns a marketing company in Hamilton who was a member at Taurus, and she was like, hey, I've got a friend who would love to get in the CrossFit scene. He runs cycling events, which was the Dynamo Events connection back then.
Right, yep.
And so she's like, this is the man who can do all the other stuff that you can't do. And I was like, okay. And then so we connected in a chat, and then suddenly it was like Nationals was born.
Yep.
And then we needed to run individual and team the first year, just to because the cost is involved, right? Like, and that's the biggest problem with individual events is the cost. There's not enough money in them to cover the cost of the venues. So we ran that together, and then that was like a year. And then Luke didn't run Team Nats 1 year.
Okay.
And I said to Nathan that this was we should buy this off him. And so Nathan bought it off him. Me being the gym owner with no idea back then, I didn't have any money, right? So, so Nathan brought it, and then we continued to run it, moved it to Hamilton, and then Cam and I eventually took over. This will be 4 years ago this year. And then it's now grown to the beast that it is now.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and beast is a.
But yeah,
is a
no,
good
CrossFit
word.
Taurus was well before the comps. Like
Right.
the actual first comp we started was the pound for pound. I don't know if you boys have heard of that or
Yeah,
not.
I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an all-time fave.
Yeah.
And yeah, they actually did really well. It was a really cool comp. And
Mm.
but then it just running both the comps, just like there was a little bit of conflict and a little bit of like I just didn't have time to do that and do the gym well, so we got rid of that.
I remember going to CrossFit Taurus for the first time, in its first venue, because you end up moving a little bit down the road from its original venue.
Like 4 times. We
Yeah.
originally started in a gym that was like 200 squares, and then we moved to this ridiculously massive gym.
Yeah.
It was like 650 squares, and then we moved next door, and then that was like we stayed there for probably 3 years, and then we moved down the road about a K to where it is now.
Yeah. Yes, I think the one before it is now. I remember going there. I could be wrong. You'll correct me, but I remember going in there. It had all the photos of like ex-military people and stuff like that, and I was like, "That's an intense gym, man." And it was always. I remember people saying, "Oh, Taurus, yeah, it's that army gym, eh?" Like it was always like, real like that's where the hard bastards go.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all, really.
Yeah, but no, awesome, man. So yeah, beast is a good word for
Definitely
for nationals, because it is. I mean, no one's going to get offended here. It's the biggest comp in New Zealand if you pair team nationals with the individual comp. I want to talk more on the team side, and then we'll switch on to individual.
Yeah, for sure.
What's the planning behind that? Like you said, it's just pure bodies involved, teams of 6. Logistically, how do you manage that many people over 2 days?
Yes, I guess. So the number of people per lane doesn't actually matter if you look at it from a logistics point of view. So like one heat has 20 lanes, but whether you have 6 people per lane or 1 person per lane, it doesn't actually matter. So effectively the way you look at team nationals in terms of managing it logistically in the way if you take out the programming and ignore that, if you take out the need for gear and you ignore that, and you just think about pure people moving through space and time, there's actually only 200 competitors at Team Nats, because one team is worth 1 spot. And so that's the way in which you manage it, right? So actually Indie Nats is harder because there's 264 individual spots, right? Or spots per lane. Yeah. But I mean, like, we have a massive team. Like there's no way by any means that it's Cam and I that run these events. I think we have a team of 10 or 9 of us. I was trying to work it out on the way here this morning, that run this, that have been helping us for years now. Like my brother does with the 3 ladies that help him, does the athlete management. And like, it was funny because my brother said to me, he was down last weekend, he said, "Oh, I don't know if I can make Team Nats." And the response wasn't the discussion that he hoped for. It was like, there isn't an option. You come in a Team Nats. I don't care what we have to do to make this happen, because we're at a point now where we have so many systems in place for the way in which he runs it. And like you say, such a big thing that there's so many things that change throughout the weekend to make the event to come out the way it does, that I don't know if we can replace him at the moment. And so he's been doing that same job now for I think 5 years. He's been running the athlete management.
He's in the corrals?
And it's simple. Yeah,
I know the guy. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and so it's the thing is, we did the timetable for the whole weekend and the events are laid out, but it'll be simple little things like maybe there was 25 elite teams scheduled and 20 will show up. And so for the first event, I'll move the whole division to 1 heat, because this creates a better environment for the athletes, right? Like, they know if they're winning and they get to play the race game, right? On the same that there's some workouts that we can't actually try until the weekend, because we can't get 6 people together with all of the gear, with the setup that we want, in the environment that we want. And so we'll test stuff the day before on the Saturday when we've got a break, and we would have allocated the time to do that. And then it'll mean that Lee will then be told, "Hey man, there's only 15s in the come-in heat." And so the heats will shift slightly, or we'll change a time frame because we've moved it. Like, I guess last year's example with Team Nats, we moved the field we were going to use. It was supposed to be the field just out the back behind the corrals, but we had to move it to the far field because it was flatter, and it meant that we could achieve the distance that we wanted.
Right. Yeah.
And so Lee had to find 10 minutes per heat to walk people there.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. You don't think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So little things like that, my brother's become really accustomed to just being like I don't like whatever Gilly says, it's just we have to make that work.
Yeah.
You know, because otherwise it doesn't. Or like, you know, there'll be little things like I'll say, hey, we're 4 minutes ahead. I want to use the time Jeremy's out on the floor. He's going to do a giveaway. And Lee's like, I got athletes here ready to go, man. And I'm like, I don't care. We're doing a giveaway. I don't want you to be ahead of time. And he'll just like do something like rebrief the athletes, or he'll give them time, or talk them through. And so just like, yeah, some people are just getting to the point where they're irreplaceable just because they know how the whole thing works and how it all works and ties together.
Yeah.
The same as like our two ladies that do the scoring, Michelle and Vanessa, who have done it. I think they've done it the entire time. You know, like Vanessa used to have like a list of like scorecards where there'd be issues that athletes had pulled up with her.
Yeah.
And I'd try and walk up there like, I don't know, every two hours ish, and she'd just sit me down and hammer me with questions. But she's got to the point now where she doesn't even ask me anymore.
Yeah.
She's like, here's all the adjustments I've made. Let me know if you want to change them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I trust you. She's like, this is the one I need to talk through because there's a timing change here. But the rest of them, I've done this. Are you happy? And I'm like, yeah, cool. Like she knows exactly what I'm going to say. And so I guess having that team is the secret to success really with nationals.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds like, like you said, you can't run such a big thing like that. And it sounds like they know exactly their roles. And just on that one thing with the scoring, like if you've got 30 fucking disputes and one person can go, I fucking know how to deal with this, and you can just carry on doing your job. Makes life a shitload easier.
And like, I think she's learned well because Vanessa's always asked me why I've changed things and how I've changed them.
Right.
Like I think I have an example with Bailey, not last year before. He's like, it was something about there was a way they added up the score or something, and so we had to work through total time achieved in the workout versus time per rep over the number of the time, and then we deducted like 33 seconds off his score.
Right.
But like you had to work it out based on average pace throughout the workout, including fatigue. And I had to explain all that to Vanessa, and then the next time I came up, she was like, "Oh, I've done this change. I worked out the same way you did for this and this and this and this and this," and I was like, "Okay, cool,
Perfect." Yeah.
So, yeah, exactly, right.
Sounds good, and it seems you have to have that trust to be able to give people the authority to take charge on stuff like that. You coming from the armed forces background, obviously still an assumption that they run a tight ship there. Do you bring that mentality to your competitions as well?
I think that's something that I've learned to manage a lot better in the last like 2 or 3 years. Like I guess having a daughter was probably the first step that helped me manage that. Like I used to be far less approachable, far less empathetic, far less considerate. And I think like I've become much more open-minded and willing to like realize that things aren't always as they are. And so yes, in terms of like the way in which we process stuff. So like we have what's called a mission appreciation process, and it is like the most phenomenal way to solve a problem. And it's like a step-by-step process in which you like, I do it subconsciously now. It's like a 9-step thing that you use to gain information, establish outcomes or courses of action, and then choose the best for the required result. And so that's definitely something that we use. And so we use it at nationals really well. Probably not to the detail that I know it, but we do a touch point every night before the next day. Yeah. And so we go through that same premise. Like someone will be like, we go around the table and someone will be like, hey, this is an issue that we've had today. And we'll be like, cool, do we need to change that? What are the considerations around changing that? What's the next step forwards? There's like two or three course of actions as a group of staff, I call it. We decide on which course of action provides the better outcome. And then from there, we step forward. So I definitely take the mission appreciation process or however you want to call it. And I use that for my programming as well. Yeah. So that's really valuable. And then I think the timing thing is really important as well. It's probably that's something that the Army's taught really, really well. Like I genuinely definitely see that time for the event or the schedule in which the weekend is run is one of the most valuable and most important things for the weekend. There's nothing worse than you as an athlete being told that you're on or knowing on your schedule that you're on in an hour and a half, and then it comes over the microphone, oh, we're 1 hour ahead. Yeah. And you're like, I haven't eaten, I just woke up, I haven't had any time to warm up, and you want me to be walking on the floor in 30 minutes? That means I got to be at the corrals in 15, which means this warm-up's going to be like real poor, and then the chance of injury increases, right? Yeah. On the same premise that the opposite to that is warm up, ready to go. I've got my timing, I've had my snacks, I've got my water, whatever. I walk into the crowds, and then the athlete manager says, oh no, you guys aren't on for 45 minutes. We're almost an hour behind. and you're like, I'm ready to go. Like,
Yeah.
so there's nothing worse than that. And then what we're trying to do with nationals is show this thing to the wider population, right? Like we're trying to show that fitness is accessible. And so as soon as you tell your mother or father or your friends and family or whatever to come and watch you, and they're waiting in the stands and they've turned up on time, and it's like, oh, I just missed him because he went 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
But they'd planned their whole day with their 2 kids around the time that you've given them in the schedule, and they miss you.
Yeah.
Like that just really gets to people, and it ruins the whole thing. So I guess the timing is the other thing that's really important that I've taken from the Army.
Yeah, I love that. Like, timetable's a priority, and because I've been to a competition where I'm not that fit. I was the first heat of the day, and we were meant to kick off at 7, but then we get there 6:30, whatever, and they haven't even opened the doors at 7, and we're not working out till 8:15. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I did not need to be here this early.
I think, and it's frustrating, right?
Yeah. Last year was the first year with Team Nats where you said you had to be, I could be wrong, but the first year I remember doing Team Nats where it was like you had to be there 30 minutes before your heat. And at the start, people were like, fuck, that's dumb. But by after like 2 or 3 heats, you're like, this is the best way to do it, because every heat ran on time. You never ran ahead of time, never ran behind time. You knew when you need to be there, so your warm up, your prep, everything was done, ready. You got to corrals, you got briefed out on the floor, and everything ran on time. And I think it's really good that you bring up, people do come to watch that. So yeah, you don't want to miss your son, your daughter's heat.
100%. Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
And it's funny, right? Like I talk about Team Nationals as 200 heat individuals in per heat, but my brother looks at it like, no, there's 120 people per heat. Yeah. And he's like, do you understand what that takes to manage that? And every time I'm like, yeah, it's 20 people. Like, you only have to talk to the team captain. He's like, it does not work like that.
Yeah.
He's like, you say that, and I understand the point, and I acknowledge what you mean, but I talk to that whole team every time.
He does a phenomenal job, by the way.
Yeah.
And what's his name? Can we get a shout out?
Lee. Gillum, little Gilly.
Yeah, does an amazing job year after year in those corrals. And by the end, on day 2, he's shattered, man. And I always make a point of saying, bro, thank you. Like, you do a great job.
Yeah. And then I always come along to and something I'm going to do more of this year is we did a survey earlier in the year with like some feedback points, and there's no doubt there's one you'll talk to me about later, which will be the pull-up rig. But one of the feedback things was everyone wants this. I guess it's like and I hate to think of like the Castro effect, but like want a bit of taste of like the event manager or taste of what I do with the elite athletes. And so my brother always loves when I come along and I'll throw a twist into the elite athletes like right before they work on the floor, just to like even the playing field, And some of the feedback was like they want, like, all of the divisions want a taste of that. So that my brother's going to really enjoy that this year when I do that to him this year, because I mean, it adds value for the comp, right? And people love that twist or that I guess Cam always calls it the Gilly factor, but whatever. Yeah.
Oh, there's been a few Gilly factors over the years, and I think people come to appreciate it, to be fair.
Before we leave Team Nats chat, obviously I'm quite new to the sport, so my expectations around the way a competition would run come from just watching the CrossFit Games. Is there, for people who might not know, is there any reason behind still having the 6 people teams? Because I know doing Team Nats last year, it was a mish to try and get 6 people in the same room. Yeah. Have you ever sort of considered going to 4 or?
Yeah, so I guess the question I can ask you back is why? Like, CrossFit Games don't define what is fitness, right? They define a testing stepping stone to crown the fittest on earth.
Yeah.
And they define their own team. So in the game scenario, you're playing their game and their rules. And I mean, a lot of us don't like some of the rules. I mean, there's plenty of things we could give feedback on about the weekend or the week that's just passed. But at the end of the day, you're playing their game, right? And so on the similar sense in that, like, we've created this idea that what Team Nationals is about. And the reason I think the biggest reason we've kept to 6 is we're in this like group of 9. We always throw the same conversation up every year of like, why are we staying with 6? And I think every single time we come to the point that in a team of 6, you can be a team and you can hide people. And that's what a team is about, right? Like, you think on a rugby field, your halfback is the smallest dude, but you've got a forward pack to look after him, right? On the same that you've got a fullback who can kick phenomenally and he's there to catch the ball, but if a prop tackles him, it's not going to be a good day for him. And so you have a team that can look after each other and help each other. And we find that, or I have found, and the discussions generated that in a team of 4, you can't really do that. You can't really be a team. You know, like a 4-person worm, you all kind of you all got to do your work, but like you don't have to be a team as such. You could hide a little bit. The same as like on a barbell, like if you've got one dude who's really, really strong, the other one can be like, the other one needs to be pretty strong too, because there's only one other person, or boy for this matter, to tag in and out.
Yeah.
Whereas with 6, there's 2 other dudes, right? Same with like, you always see the teams that are better, that are cohesive on the worm, on the 6-person worm. You can see a team that is cohesive and working together because they've got a leader and they know the signals and they know like push for each other. Whereas I just find that, or we have found that a team of, through discussion, I guess, through a team of 4, you don't get that as much.
Okay.
And I guess so to answer your point about like the struggle when getting 6 people together, we've tried, like, and I hate seeing teams not turn up. Like that, just every time we get teams not turn up, Cam and I just gutted. Like it's not even, the money is irrelevant because the money stays there, right? Like it's spent on their venue and all that sort of stuff. But like that's 6 people. And last year I think we had 7 teams that didn't turn up, and I always know how many it is because I always ask. And I'm like, there's 7 teams of 6, so that's like 42 people that just didn't get to compete this weekend, and that sucks.
Right.
And so we're always looking for ways to make it more accessible, and that's why we've put that ineligible rule in there, so you can still compete with someone from another gym and just throw them in there, but you just can't win the prize money, which we think is fair.
Yeah, it's fair.
So I think the biggest, I guess from my perspective, it's the cohesive, like you can be a team and you can hide teammates in certain things and you can tag in out, but a cohesive team of 6 is really hard to get together, and a cohesive team of 6 will really get success.
Yeah.
Or feel success.
That's a really good perspective, actually. I hadn't considered it in that way, and I suppose like us trying to not being able to get a team of 6 together to practice it's just an excuse at the end of the day. It's like we're just not prioritizing that competition the way that you need to if you actually want to win. But yeah, coming into that, I actually learned how to handstand walk the week of, just because one of us had to be able to handstand walk. So managed to pull off a 5 meters unbroken. It was pretty rewarding. So yeah.
That's good.
That's really cool.
Just on the worms, thing, the earthworm.
Yeah, that was cool.
Cool.
That was old school.
Bro, old school's right, man.
Yeah.
I remember the blocks of wood with chains holding it together, man.
I saw I think Ducky put up a video the other day of the HPU.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and they were doing the worst thing about those logs in HPU days is those logs weigh like 5 kilos. Like it was all about work, but if you dropped it on something, it hurt. Yeah, I thought it was cool. I thought it was a cool addition, and meant people had to be like individuals, but as a team, right? So it was cool.
The first clean, everyone got thrown off by it. It was quite funny. So, are we gonna see an earthworm next year?
On next year, I don't know. Definitely not this year. No, I don't. Like I love the CrossFit Games do a really good job of new implements and doing all of that thing. But I guess one of the arts of programming for New Zealand, Australian, probably every other comp other than the CrossFit Games and Rogue is like you have a gear list that you're restricted to, right? Like it's not, and it's not, there's no like send your shopping list to Rogue and I'm having this, thanks. You know, like what they say, 72 barbells on the floor at the games 2 years ago. And one heat. It's like, we only own 40 barbells and we have 20 teams on the floor. So I mean, if the world was my oyster and budgets didn't matter, then you probably see heaps of new stuff all the time. But we've got to control that, and that we have a gear list and we've got a budget, and our goal is not necessarily to make the most outrageous and hardest events. Our goal is to create an experience for the athletes. And I think we're doing a pretty good job of that, and we're continuing to improve that experience for the athletes.
Yeah, sweet as, man. On gear list, we'll bring it up now. You touched on it, the pull-up rig. It was just a little bit too fat.
Based on what, though?
Based on me wanting to have a whinge. All right?
Right. So I guess like I sent out an email this year because the feedback email we sent out was really valuable, and so quite a lot of people brought up the thickness of the rig, and I guess like I sent out a reply in terms of like why we decided to do that, and there was a number of reasons. and I don't know if you boys have read the email, but the first thing being that the thickness of the bar allows us to do a longer pull-up bar, which means that you can fit more on. So most pull-up bars are 1.8 to 1.9, and ours is 2.05. The problem is if you use hollow steel to go that long, the flexion is huge, like on the bar, and so you can feel each other. And so we chose to go with the like those are also solid steel. They're 22 kilos a pull-up bar.
Fucking hell.
So we went with the wider bar, and it just meant the little bit wider grip also completely eliminated the flex. And the thing is, right, like the only thickness of pull-up bar is determined by what we've been buying, but there's no actual standard, right? And so we went with that, and then the height was based on what the games use for the rope climb. So the top of the rope is the top of the rig is 15.44, which is the same as what you use in the quarterfinals and in the 15 feet mark. And then the open plan allowed for people to move in and around without running into uprights all over the place. But where we did go wrong, and I openly admit to failure, is we didn't provide the athletes protection from fall sufficiently. Like there was matting down, but it just wasn't enough. And so, like I said earlier, we have spent a lot of money this year on buying foam flooring to go underneath the rig to provide that safety for people.
Right.
So I think other than the people aren't used to the grip, I think except like adapting to change is a beautiful thing. And like we saw that at Rogue with the wooden pull-up, right,
4.5 inches
wooden pull-up bar, but which was really cool, right? And I think just people are so used to what they're used to that it was hard to accept, right? So I mean, it's not. I think if it was unfair and that some lanes were thinner or some lanes were galv, that'd be a problem, you know. And I've been to events in my earlier years of competing that like some bars were galv, some bars were like that nice powder coat matte, and then 3 lanes down was like a gloss finish. And you're like, this is not fair. Whereas everyone is in the same boat, and we always make sure that as a priority as well, that everyone has the same opportunity for success or failures, right? So you're all in the same boat.
I've been to a comp where the pull-up rig was just rusted to shit, and I was like, what is this? But then grip, it was on.
The pull-up bars down in Palmy here are like old galv bars. It's actually the old rig from CrossFit Auckland when they closed down in Auckland. We grabbed that.
Right,
But we just haven't grinded them back, and so it's nice and rusty in your hands like glue. So
I did my level 1 on that rig, CrossFit Auckland.
Nice.
To that point, no one walked in and didn't think that fucking rig looked like a beast, man. It looked fucking cool. I'll give you that.
And I mean, like at the heart of the sport is that you need to be ready for anything, really.
Right.
And what is CrossFit? I mean, I'm an affiliate owner, right? If CrossFitters don't have something to whinge about, what's the point? You know?
Right. No.
Anyway, let's move it on to the individual. We're in the middle of qualifiers now. Let's talk about some logistical problems you've had with that over the years, how it's become, one of the most successful. What last year had the most entries ever into the online qualifier?
1,205 last year.
Fucking hell, yeah. What's the steps to making it such a beast, man? What's the secret?
I don't know if there's a secret. I think that the biggest thing for Cam and I is there's a bigger purpose to this. Like our goal is not our goal. It'd be nice to make money one day, but that is not our goal by any means. Our goal is to grow both the fitness industry in New Zealand, which I think will help everyone in all competitions, but is to also grow. I think if I could define, like I always try and understand in myself what it is that makes me want to keep doing nationals, I don't know how many times my brother and my wife are like, you don't make any bloody money, stop it. Like, what are you doing? But I think the thing is, like, first of all, I think who else is going to do it, right? Like we wrote a rule book that, how long that rule book take us to write and how many days we've spent, how many times we've updated it and made it better and better. But it's to hold us accountable and the athletes accountable, and that like it's got to be fair, right? And I still haven't seen someone else write a rule book yet other than the games. And so I think until someone else does it, I think that we have a responsibility to continue to do that. And I think from the reason that has come about and the foundation of that is, like we do all these cool things at school, right? Like we go away and Raglan is a perfect example last year. Danny Ford was like, are we going to go to Raglan? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, you need a sim bag and a pillow when I was like sending out the email invites. And she's like, we're going camping. And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, I'm coming, lock me in. I don't care about the rest of the weekend. We're going camping, you know? And so we don't get that stuff as adults anymore. You know, I think, you know, you go to a high school ball, we do a formal dinner, or we used to do a formal dinner in Hamilton every year at the gym where everyone wore suits, and we set up the gym with like nice flash tables and got like all your like flash, you know, we did like a photo booth and everyone get like a professional photographer in and do like you would in a ball, right? Because the majority of us don't do stuff like that anymore. And so when we say nationals is about creating an experience for the athletes, it's an experience that you probably won't get to feel otherwise. You know, like 0.01% of us are going to get to go to the games, whereas I can provide an opportunity with team nats where you can endure the same or similar experience as going to the games without leaving the country.
Yeah.
And because I wanted to feel that, you know, like, and when we went to the games in 17, like some of the things we went through as a team, like, you know, because obviously you make the games like 4 months back then before you went. You like those moments and the memories from that, you can't get that otherwise. And so, you know, that's why we release entries for nationals in April. So you have time as a team to go through all of that stuff, right? All of those, you know, like we talk about issues and getting a team together. That's actually all part of it, right? The frustrations and all of that, like planning accommodation is actually all part of that whole thing, right? And so I think being able to provide people or the New Zealand fitness community that opportunity to do that is really, really valuable. And I think Cam and I get a lot of like satisfaction or like the feeling of satisfaction at the end of the weekend when people are like, man, that was like one of the coolest things I've done, you know? I think if you think of it, if I tell people that that's the way in which, or the reasoning behind it, it's probably a clear way to say the why we do it.
100%.
And it's the same as like when I say to Cam, you know, like most of the big events at nationals are like 2 or 3 years ahead, right? And I'm like, Cam, I want to do this in 3 years. And Cam's like, oh, great. And he's like, so what are we doing to get there? And it's not just like the setting up of like, you know, like we talk about like the planning to get Raglan across the line, right? We knew in 2021 we were doing Raglan last year. No, 2020 we were doing Raglan last year. I mean, COVID obviously was a hindrance to that, but we knew we were going to do Raglan eventually. And so we had to set up a stepping stone, you know, nationals is going to have a swim. You know, so people knew they're going to swim. And so by us releasing Raglan, it wasn't like people going to die because they've never trained for a swim before. They knew it was coming. You know, and so I think we create stepping stones to give people the opportunity to do things that they never thought were going to be possible. And an experience is the most important part of that. You know, like I can still remember doing team nats at the Mount with like back in when it was only small, like it was like 50 teams, 40 teams, I think, when they ran it in the gym, you know, and like, but like AJ was like 4 weeks ago, he's like, bro, jump on this team, do this. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, and I still remember bits of that weekend, you know, and like, and I would love to know that in 20 years when I'm probably past it and I've probably, I don't know, I wouldn't be running nationals maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that people still have memories from nationals. You know, they still tell me, oh, that stupid worm when we carried it, that 150 meters and back, my biceps were, you know, like little things like that, I think. Yeah, right. Or like, you know, or if I see Danny in passing in the street and she's like, man, that camping, that Raglan trip was one of the coolest events I've ever done. Like that to me is really valuable. And like Pound is a good example. Like I remember I was talking to Mark Thomas recently, and he's like, bro, do you remember that time you made us run up the Hakaramatas in Hamilton? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, bro, that was a wicked event, you know. And like, so it's little things like that that people remember that I really find value in. And if we can continue making memories like that for people, then we're continuing to succeed.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Really cool.
Yeah, it's a really cool sort of philosophy, the way that you view your competitions and the sport itself. And obviously we've all got this shared interest that we're trying to grow the sport within Oceania, definitely. But how do you feel about other comps coming up? Definitely not on your scale just yet, but other comps coming up in the space, trying to grow the sport within New Zealand and Australia. How do you feel about the future of CrossFit down the side of the world?
Yeah, I think... I mean, like I was gutted when Down Under put the dates to the same weekend as Indy Nats, and we at the time we didn't have the opportunity to shift it. So like the initial reaction, as you can imagine, was like, those guys. But like when you take a step back, it's like they're not trying to defeat someone else. Right? That's not the point. And so we obviously got the opportunity recently, as we announced, to move the comp a week earlier, which was originally booked out with the venue, and and the New Zealand, the Cambridge Fitness Festival got involved as well. So that was really cool for that. So it just lined up. But I think at the end of the day, like all of these events are really important, and if we can get on board to support each other, we're going to help everyone, right? Like I had a good chat to Deech and Luke, end of last week, about like helping each other grow all of these events. Like, and I think that's really important because like when we're competing for people to sign up, competing, I say loosely, like we want we want 1% of the fitness population in New Zealand if we're talking about the biggest scale of the events in the country, right? And so like we're not even competing, right? Like it's not like the CrossFit Games and someone tried to start the New Zealand or the World Fitness Games. You know, that'd be different, and they ran it the same weekend. It'd be like, what are you trying to achieve here? Whereas, like, I think everyone in New Zealand, especially, and we have a really, and I keep being reminded about how small our community is in New Zealand and how personable we need to be. I think the comps are good. Like, I can't say that enough. I genuinely think the comps are good. I think there are some people in this country I probably don't align to very well, and they probably don't align to me. And I've no doubt pissed off my fair share of people in the world, and you know, like, and maybe one day those relationships will improve or reestablish, but I definitely think that they're a good thing, and I can't see why they wouldn't be a good thing.
Yeah, I think that's a really good answer. I said to Dean the other day when he came on, people are going to do the comps that they want to do. You know, you can't impact someone to do something because you want them to. I think it's really good, and he actually brought a good point that there's so many little comps like Tarapa run that Rising Stars competition. It's for beginners only, and that's such a good avenue for them because lots of beginners, they don't want to go to a big comp because they're scared of CrossFit. So it's really important to have those little ones as well dotted around. So I think it's a really good answer. All boats rise in the same tide. I think that's what they say.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think that's something. Like, I made a comment about this the other day on one of my stupid Instagram stories or silly Instagram stories that I do. Referencing, like, if we could all just get on board, you know. We had a friend, my wife's friend from Canada, visit us recently, and she made an interesting observation actually, and this is something that we're going to employ at Team Nats this year. All going well, Deech and Luke are going to jump on board, but I mean, we'll see. But so she said that in Canada, if you go to an event in Canada, there'll be an area of the vendor village dedicated to future competitions.
Oh, right.
And so future comps will advertise their comps at the competition, right? And the MC will do shout outs saying, hey guys, make sure you jump on this comps in 4 weeks. Really good comp, blah, blah, blah. And all that happens is the entries go like this, like it's going upwards, right? Because every comp's like, hey, thanks for coming. Love you guys being involved. This is the next one, you know? And this is why, like, it was a good chat with Deech actually, trying to get him to come and do like a little stall at Nationals for Discipline Games is, you know, if more people enter his comps, more people do online qualify for Nationals, and more people do X, Y, and Z. You know, it's all about getting more people involved, you know. And I guess that was like the premise for Strongman last year. Like people would be like, oh, that's competitive because people do Strongman and they do CrossFit. It's like, well, actually, if more people do Strongman and more people do CrossFit, and then all the people that are watching Strongman or those that are watching CrossFit then get involved in both of those sports, we've now got more people doing fitness, right? And it's a good thing for everyone.
Yeah, that's the end goal.
I had a little thought just then. Would it ever come to a point where too much people is a problem? Like, if we're getting more people in every single comp, you do this comp and you also do, you know, everyone's signing up. Like, say you had your 200 athletes, 1,200 for the online qualifier. What if we've got 10,000 people signing up? Is that going to become a real bad problem? In your,
I can't see. Well, how many people do the games?
Well, yeah. I mean, you can trim the fat with qualifiers and stuff like that. But do you want to grow the sport so instead of 20 lanes, you've got 40? Or was that?
Yeah.
Nah.
So. Interesting perspective, right? So the short answer is yes, but we're limited by the cost in which it costs to add a heat, and the cost. I don't mean financially; I mean the cost of time, right?
Yeah, it's true.
So if you add a heat, you take away, like if you add a 10-minute workout 3 times per day, that's 30 minutes plus transition is an hour. So you take away an hour of competition time just for one heat plus the actual workout time, depending on how long that's going to be. So now every single heat gets 2 minutes less. You know, so it's just like it's total time. So But I guess as an insight to that, there was I don't know if you always follow the turf games.
Yeah, have
online.
recently. Yep.
Yeah, so the London turf games had 4,000 competitors, and they had five purple teams, and they had 7 floors.
Wow.
So I guess the answer to the solution to the question is more floors, right? So at Team Nats this year, the only way, so we added 30 teams this year from last year,
Yep.
hence the 200, and so we did that by adding another floor. So there's the indoor floor, there's the outdoor floor, and then Karapiro, and then on the Sunday there's the indoor floor and 2 outdoor floors, and that's the only way we can do it to be able to give the athletes the experience that they ask or that they deserve by signing up, right? And so the solution to be, if we could meet the demand, sorry, if the demand was there, so say we had another 30 teams on the wait list, we can't do it now, but next year, if that many teams on the wait list next year, we could add another floor, provided we can meet the logistics of that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
No,
I mean, the ultimate goal would be to have the same as the turf games, for Team Nats particularly, right? And that's just going to add, like, then that's why we're calling it the festival, right? Like, if we can turn the team nationals into what a Palooza is, and then all these comps advertise and all these comps get full entries, like, how is that not a better scenario for everyone?
Yeah, definitely.
I reckon it's really exciting seeing what's happening. I've been just started trying to get turf games on for this event series, so that will be an interesting chat about the logistics of that. Shit, 7 floors, man.
I think the one thing that, like, American countries and Canada and Australia actually do really well at is volunteers. And I don't know how yet, and that's something that, like, the couple of the event managers in New Zealand have been talking a lot about. I think we're the only country that pays the helpers, like, gives them financial backing for that. And so I don't think that's the solution. Like, I know there was 150 helpers or volunteers at Torin. If we had to pay each of them $100 per day, or say $50 a day, like, we're never even going to cover the cost of the comp, right? let alone the time that it takes for all the people that are doing more outside of the weekend, So I know turf games had a lot of volunteers, and the games have a lot of volunteers, and I think that's something that we could do better at in New Zealand. And it's something that Alyssa and I are talking about. Like, we're trying to get away to events. I was trying to go up to Withstand in a couple of weeks, but just doesn't line up with Alyssa's Beauty Beyond Strength competition. But always try and get involved outside of our own comps to help if we can, just to try and encourage the volunteers and the support to other comps as well.
I think that's a really good point. I remember once I said, oh man, like, the lack of judges in this country is just ridiculous. And someone just went straight to me and said, when was the last comp you judged? And I was like, actually.
Right. Yeah. And do you know what? I remember when I was in 2017, we ran nationals, and I was in the team for the games, and I made Amy, Rob, Joe, Grayson, and Bailey all judge that weekend. And they were smashed. Like, I remember on Sunday talking to Grayson, he's like, bro, I'm not doing that again. I'm signing up, man. I can't do that. And I remember talking to Jody Gardner and Maddie Stockman when I made them volunteer at Team Nats one year. I was like, bro, you boys aren't entered, you're doing nothing. Come and volunteer. And they were like, okay. And Jody was like, I'm signing up every time, man. That was way too hard.
Far out. Shout out to Walker, head judge, man. He does a great job.
Yeah, definitely.
Year after year.
Just being wary of time. I know you got stuff to go and do, bro. So do you?
Yeah, man. First of all, really good chat, really good insight.
Yeah,
and I know there's a lot more to touch on there as well, but he's got to go save the country, ladies and gentlemen. So we did touch before this, said that, if you want to, we've been getting our guests to give us a workout, whether it's something you've always wanted to program but never been able to, or you want to give a little teaser, or just something you've done hard in your own training, that we'll give a crack. So if you've got anything, lay it on us, bro.
Yeah, I guess one of the things that probably the biggest thing or issue with nationals is always going to be gear. And so one of the restrictions is always using what gear we can get our hands on. We borrow a lot of gear off gyms across the country, and, like, forever grateful for those gyms. We borrow the mountain rowers every single year and have for the last 7 years. So I guess one of the things would be able to have less limitations on gear. And so if we could do something like a 1 AM split jerk, or something where we have to use racks on the floor, like, if we could have, like, 4 racks per lane, you'd need like 20 something racks to be able to do like a half heat and give them 3 racks each. But to be able to do racks along the floor and do like a max split jerk or a max back squat off a rack, not off the ground, would be phenomenal. Like it's always been restricted to, like we do it at trios and we've done it at other comps where it's in the gym because there's a rack. But I think out on the floor at nationals with racks would be a spectacle. That's something we haven't been able to achieve, and I don't know if we'll ever be able to do that.
Yeah, sweet as. So have you got a workout you want to give us, mate?
Like a workout for us to.
Doesn't have to be one you've done. We've just been getting our guests to come on, just give us a workout, and we do it in the gym.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I'll just give you the last workout of the event of the online qualifier.
Easy as.
67 snatch.
67 snatch. Ooh. Full time. Weights? Nah.
No, that's what you get.
What was the one last year? How many fucking snatches?
67 snatch.
Yeah.
That was the one last year.
Last year was 67.
Bro, if you've gone heavier, we're not friends anymore. Fucking hell.
No, I guess we'll see.
Oh shit.
Okay.
It's not a repeat. I've done a repeat once ever, and I didn't like it, so I won't do it again.
Yeah. 67 snatch, not a repeat. Okay, heard it here first, team. Shit. Just on that one there, the thoughts behind the if you snooze you lose workout.
This is the best workouts ever.
How?
Do you know if you'll want that come back again?
Never,
No.
bro. Never.
Have you ever been humbled by an empty barbell so well?
Oh, bro, honestly, man. Round 2, I'm looking at it. I'm like, I can't do that again, man. Oh, I had a teenage athlete message me a week ago. She's like, if that comes up again, I'm quitting CrossFit. I was so fuck, man. But,
I those are definitely my favorite two. One of my favorite two online qualifier workouts. That volume 1 and volume 2.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh, man. Hey,
is there anyone you want to give a quick shout out before you head off, mate?
Nah, I'm not a shout out kind of person.
Safe.
I don't have anything for you.
All good.
Yeah.
You've done enough shout outs anyway. Everyone behind the scenes.
I mean, a quick thank you to the team that run nationals. Like that's all I can say. Like without them, it's never going to happen.
Yep.
You know, if they don't keep turning up, nationals isn't going to keep going. So it's that simple.
No. Awesome, man. Hey, thank you so much for sitting down. We know you're a busy man, and man,
No worries.
all the best with these qualifiers.
Yep, and we'll be.
I'll see you at Team Nats, man.
Thanks for your time.
No worries, man. No,
Yeah,
thank you, bro.
For sure.
Easy.
All right, catch you guys. Thank you.
Catch ya.